everyone. Thank you for joining us and happy Friday. Tonight we have a really fun class and it's going to be just a nice, relaxing, chill project to finish up what we started last week. So last week we got to play with some wire and we made a focal pendant and a focal connector. And so today's class is going to focus on putting it all together with two different stringing methods that would be fun to try. And so I'm going to switch to my mat here. And so what you see here on my mat are a lot of seed beads. We're going to be using a lot of seed beads today. It's really beautiful medium for featuring any pendant, and especially in this design. I just thought it looked really cool and there's so much you can do. So I'm going to show you two different ways you can try. This version uses some beading wire, and the beading wire is, oops, sorry about that, is the 19 strand, just regular beading wire. I'm using a bright silver, and it's really, it's flexible. It's really perfect for this length, and that's what I used to finish this connector. And then we're gonna, after that, I'm gonna show you guys something. It's new to me. I just discovered it, and I like it. It is a monofilament cord, and I'm using it doubled to form a nice, flexible, pretty seed beaded chain. And so those are the two techniques. The colors that I'm using in the pieces, I have a few different colorways going here. On the long one, on the monofilament, I've been using a mix of gold and silver, and this is a 6/0, size 6/0 seed bead, and it is like a crystal gold. So it's actually like crystal seed bead, but with gold in the center. So it makes it have like a 3D kind of hollow effect. It's a really pretty bead. And mixing that with some size 8 seed beads. And then on the tiny chain, what I did there, I tried a bunch of different stuff. I really liked the look of just some seed beads mixed up. There's 8s, 11s, and 6s. And I'm gonna go ahead and pull over the sample from the handout. In the handout, I did the same thing, but I pulled in a bunch of really pretty beads from my stash. So just a bunch of beads. In the handout, all the beads are named in case you like them, but I pulled those in too. So much possibility, so many really great ideas. And here's just one or two ways to finish some nice jewelry. So there's a couple findings and tools I wanted to show you guys really quick. On the beading wire version, we saw the beading wire. We're going to need some crimp tubes. And the crimp tubes are 2x2 crimps. And I had them out just a second ago here. Oh no, here they go. Got worried for a second there. They're right here. So you'll see them labeled as number 2. And I use a lot of them. I'm down to like the last few, so I gotta refill that. And then for the monofilament version, there are these really great clamshell findings. And when we get to that part, I'll talk more about why this is kind of cool and why I like it. So I think I'll start with the beading wire, just because that's the quicker one. And it's probably the one that I feel like everyone's familiar with, at least a little bit already. So as far as how much to cut, depending on how long you would like your necklace to be and which layer, on the design that I did, this was the medium layer. So it's not a choker length and not the 21-inch one, but kind of in between. So what I did was I kind of went for somewhere around 18 inches total. So this is about 8 1/4 in length, this from here to here, but it's completely up to you what you'd like. Whatever length you'd like it to be, add about 6 inches to what you cut so that you have room to get it through your crimps. You'll be folding it over, and it's a lot easier to do that if you've got just a little, a little extra length on your beading wire. And I forgot to mention, if anyone has any questions, feel free to, this class it'll be really, we'll have time to repeat. So plenty of time for questions. Jump in anytime. I'm cutting about 10, 11 inches. Just give myself a little extra to work with. And then I'm going to get my crimps. This is a cool little container for the crimp beads that they came with it. And in the handout, it talks about how to do the crimp. And since creating the handout, I watched one of the classes by Meredith for Beadalon, and she shared a little tip that I'm going to share with you guys about crimping that I didn't know. So I thought I'd cover that. But getting to that part, you don't have to connect it now. But the reason I did is I didn't want to have to open this, and I wanted it to be directly connected. So this is kind of optional. This is how I did it. You can try putting a jump ring if you'd prefer not to crimp directly, but for me, what worked is I just went ahead and brought the beading wire through, and I've strung a crimp bead on here and just folded it over, pinch it together, and then just bring that crimp bead down. And one thing I'm doing while I do that is I'm holding both of those together so that they stay, when, you know, the tail's on this side and the long end is on this side. Because when I crimp, I want it to one strand be on this side and one strand be down here, so that crimp goes right down the center. And the tip from Meredith that I saw, all the time I've been crimping, I always go for the back first and then finish the fold over at the front. I thought maybe I'll show the tool just in case it's new to anybody. The back of the tool will form like a U shape with the crimp tube. It'll turn it from a hollow tube into a U-shaped compressed form. And then what you do up here with the front form is you close that U back into a smaller tube. But what Meredith showed us was she was making sure that the crimp tube is round first by first compressing it in the front. And so I've been trying that. And I did feel like that just gave the crimp just a little more stability when I was crimping it. You know how sometimes things can move on you when you're working with them? It actually helped because as I'm holding these two, it's going to hold it steady now. So now I'm going to go for the back of the crimp. And here's what that looks like from the top. So it's going to make a U shape. So there's that U shape. And now I want to close it. And to close it, you just use the front of the tool. And there it is. So it's a really fast way to make jewelry. And I'm going to grab some size 8 seed beads here. And this is a metallic silver. And I'm going to get some 11s. Oops. They're the same color, so I'm going to try to make it so that I don't mix them up too much there. And then what I did here, I just put a bunch of size 6 beads. And how is that? Does it seem like everyone can see really well? I could try to zoom in. If it's fuzzy, let me know. But the first thing I usually do when I'm working with one of these crimps is you've got this tail here. And some people trim it right up next to the crimp, and that can be totally great. But I like to put a bead on first. And that's just my preference. It's how I found that sometimes if I just try to trim that tail right next to the crimp, it'll hold my bead up a little bit and not let it totally settle. But if I pull it through that first bead and then trim it, it's just a little bit better. So try it and see if you like it too. So I'm trimming that there. And the pattern that I was working when I started this side, it's the same pattern in the handout. I was doing an 8 and an 11 and an 8 for some kind of texture and dimension there. And then I was throwing a size 6 seed bead on. And then of course in the handout and the sample, we were using those beautiful focal beads. So anything that you'd like to do for this chain, for your design, will be just beautiful. And I'll do a few more, and then I have a sample that I've worked ahead, so you guys don't have to watch me string 9 inches of, or 8.25 inches. But that's pretty much it. You just keep stringing, an 8, an 11, and an 8. And then a focal bead. And so that's all you got to do there. And I'm going to go ahead and grab this one over here that I did earlier. So here's one I strung already. Let's save us some time. And I'm going to show that crimp step one more time. Get those beads out of the way. So again, I'm grabbing another crimp tube. I'll string that on. I'll go a little faster this time, but let me know if I'm going too fast. I'm just repeating what I did before. Brought the tail through that crimp tube, and I'm just going to hold it in place. And then I'm using the front of the tool first. And that's just, let's see here, making it rounder, making that shape just a little bit rounder. Oops. Sorry about that. I'm trying to show you guys at an angle that I don't usually work at. Usually when I'm crimping, I'm using my right hand. So I'm going to switch to that. There we go. Okay, so that's on the correct side. And I'm going to go with the back of the tool. So that's, and I want to make sure that I've got the position right. So there's the U shape. One of the strands is on this side and the other's on that side. And I'm just going to close that tube again. And same thing as before. Bring down that size 8 seed bead. Trim as close as I can. And often how I do that is just pull on that tail, bring the flush cutter down against that last bead, and then just trim it. Okay, and this one has the added benefit of being ready. So one of the ways that I get the dimensions to match is just by laying them side by side. Make sure they're both kind of, and so I've got a little bit of a ways to go, but and I might just really quickly string a few on here and then we'll end it. Does anyone have any questions about that crimp step? Seems like everyone's got that part figured out. And so what we're going to do next is finish it, trim it, and then set it aside. But at the beginning of class, I didn't show the connectors yet. And so the end goal for our design today is to put it together in a way that you could have 3 strands. And so the one we're working on here is the middle one. And I'll show you guys how to connect that. Oops. I messed up my pattern just a little bit there. So speedy stringing. And something else you could do if, you know, if this part of the process is, because for me, this is kind of an enjoyable part of the process, the stringing. I don't mind that it takes a while. Sometimes I change my mind and I have to keep pulling it apart and changing the design, but there's like a couple of different ways you could use like bugle beads, and that would make it take a lot less time to string. And I've seen some really beautiful bugle chains. So that is a class that we're doing. Next month, we're going to do chain with bugle beads. I don't know if anyone noticed my earrings, but I'll lay those here for some description there of what we've got coming up. And that's another really, easy, basic class that you can make a lot of these quickly. So if you're selling your work or if you're getting ready for some fairs, it's a really nice project. I am almost there with this length. I've got just a few more to go. Three more. Okay. I'm chasing beads around the mat. And that's another part that I don't remember if I mentioned last week when we were introducing the class, but another reason I really like this next technique I'm going to show you is you see when we're trying to pick up beads on the bead mat with the wires it's a little flexible, so it's moving around while you're trying to string with it. But on our next technique, we get to use a needle. So that's super helpful. Here we go. Okay, so I'm at my last bead. Looks about right. And so I'm just testing my length to see that it's the same, and that looks good. I need to get back in frame here. All right, get these beads out of the way. So now I just need another crimp, and a couple ways you can do this. The way I did it is I went ahead and just finished it without a jump ring on it yet. I'm gonna add my jump ring at the end. But I'm stringing on a crimp bead. I'm just kind of laying it flat. My crimp bead is right here at the end. And now bring your tail back through it and then go through your first bead, which should be one of those size 8s. So it should be pretty easy to get through. Okay, there we go. And so as I'm pulling through, I'm pinching this side. This is the main strand, and this is just the tail until I get to about here. And I'm just going to do that trick again. Front, back, turn. There we go. I'm just going to trim it. So there's one necklace done. And now if you didn't want to do a multi-layer, like with, all the other layers on it, you could just throw a clasp on that and you got it. And that right there is a beautiful design. It'll look great, on a display. Makes a great gift. So I'm gonna set that one aside unless anyone has any questions about the crimp and the beading wire, because we're done with that section now.
Danielle, it's Carmi.
Hey.
Just a very quick question.
Sure.
For your pattern tonight, you chose not to use a wire guardian, and in other classes you've been showing the wire guardian. Is there a reason why you didn't use it for this strand option?
You know what? I think it's because I wanted it to match, and I didn't want to put a wire guardian here because it would just show up a lot. I wanted this to just go and just
too much of a finding.
Yeah, but I think it would be fine to do that. I think it was just style preference up, for the stage.
Okay, so we'll chalk it up to style preference.
Yeah, but definitely if wire guardians are beautiful and if they look right to your eye, I wouldn't recommend against using them because they're definitely great.
Thank you. Also, everyone's very impressed with how you managed to get your earring back on with one hand.
Oh, I forget. I've got this camera on now, so you guys can see all my background crazy going on over here. Yeah.
Well
There's
done.
So much stuff. There's so much stuff on my desk. I'm just glad you can't see my desk. It's like a bomb went off. But yeah, so the This next one is really fun. And as I was saying earlier, it's a recent discovery for me. And beading wire is great. I mean, it's flexible. It's got so much going for it. You get a little bit less of it than you do the monofilament. And so this goes a long way. You get one of these and a pack of these, and you can probably make, I'm not exaggerating, 50 pieces of jewelry. I've yet to run out. This is the same one I've been using for all of the demos and samples. So it's just kind of a really economic choice. And then I like it because it's super flexible and I get to use a needle. So, and I didn't want to overwhelm you guys in the beginning with all the crazy tools, but this is one of the tools that we'll use for this section. It's a medium collapsible eye needle. And I'm sure you guys have seen these before. They're used a lot for stringing with thread, what's it called? Basic stringing with things like, like the B-lawn and those kind of text threads. This is also really great with the monofilament. So that's what I'm using today. And I am going to use a little bit of glue. So in the handout, it mentions Hypo Cement. You only need it for just one little spot. It's just inside that clamshell to glue a knot. So go ahead and I have a sample that's ready to show you finishing. I thought what I would do to show you from start to finish is I would make a smaller, like a bracelet length really quick. And then we'll finish this one and we'll throw all the necklace together. And I think that will cover all the questions in case anyone has questions about using this this type of stringing. So let's see, make my clamshell first. You get a lot in here, 150 of them. I'll just start with one and get out one of these. These come in, I think it's like fine, medium, and heavy. I'm using the medium. And then so for length, for the length you want to cut for this, decide how long you'd like your necklace to be and cut a length that's double that, plus about 8 to 10 inches to give you room to make your knots. And so I'm going to do a bracelet. So I'm just going to go from end of the mat to the end of the mat and back, plus half a mat. You can cut this with any scissors. I'm just using what's in front of me. And you want to string on your needle and bring that down. It'll just gently fall. You don't have to help it. It'll fall to the midpoint when you hold it up. And I know it can be hard to see this, but it's because it is clear. But I've got both tails pulled together. And I'm just going to tie an overhand knot with those two tails together. So I'm just bringing it under. I flip it over. And once you've got your knot tied, just pull the strands individually. And it looks like I actually didn't quite get my knot right there. Sorry about that. It always goes perfectly until you're, here we go. Okay, so the second knot is the right one. I'm gonna trim above that other one. And I did pull the strands apart, not too hard, just gently. It'll still move a little bit until you glue. So I'm gonna trim the knot off that didn't work out. Here. And I'm gonna get my clamshell. And so the clamshells have, there's a hole in it, and there's two sides and a little hook at the top. We'll finish forming that hook at the end. But for now, I'm just gonna bring the needle through the open side, or I guess the Pac-Man side. And so the knot will just sit, it'll just sit inside of the clamshell. And now I want to put a little bit of glue on that. So here's my Hypo Cement. Oops. Get a little more. My clamshell came off. Okay. And so you can trim it, but I like to wait and trim it after my glue's dry. It's just so I don't get any glue on my tool. So I'm gonna let that sit for just a second. And I don't need my 11s anymore, but I want to bring out, you know, actually I think for this design I'm going to use, in case this color is a little hard to see, I'm going to keep using the brighter color. And so just string any design that you'd like with any beads that you'd like. In the handout, the design that we have as like the demo, it starts with 9 size 8 seed beads, and then it switches to a size 6 in that gold color. And then after that, it's 18 of the size 8 seed beads, and those are each segment of those is spaced by a size 6. And that was just a cute pattern that kind of worked out for the length I was going for, but you can try different patterns, different beads. To speed this up, I might pull in some interest beads that I've got here. I'm just going to string a bunch of them. This is going to be really random. Kind of liking that blue with the gray. Something I've noticed, just, you know, a trend right now that's out is just gorgeous seed bead jewelry. So seed beads just strung and stacked as a bracelet, necklaces as well. This is a really great way to do that. And you see how fast I was able to just pick those up? It's the needle that's making that a lot easier. Oops, there we go. This is going to be the most random bracelet ever. I got one that doesn't have a hole there. I saw one really pretty design that was just all seed beads, and then it just had a few rondelles in the center, and then all seed beads, and that was done in a rainbow of colors. It just really appealed to me. I like this minimalist jewelry movement that's out right now. And I have a feeling if you were to throw a bunch of these on a bar at a show, they would sell. People would just come by and choose their favorite color, and they're just so easy to make. And so I've got my 2 inches here. Let's see what I've got going on. I'm going to take it to about 6 1/4 to give me, you know, the clamshell and the clasp I'm planning to use is just from the findings pack, so that will probably give me about a 1/4 inch or so. You make whatever length that you would like it to be.
Danielle, may I ask you, the small glass beads that you added, are those 4 mm or 6 mm?
They're a mix. They came from, you know, the strands we've been using, those crystal rondelle strands with the 4 sizes.
Yeah.
These are the 4 mm, and those are the 6 mm.
Thank you.
I have so many of those, you know, left over from all of our projects that we've done that, I mean, they're everywhere. I have, I've got stacks of them. I got to use them for something. All right, so I'm about where I want to be because I'm going to go for 7 inches here. So got that. Now I need another clamshell. First thing I want to do though is get my beads out of the way just a little bit so you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm working with a new camera, so I'm still getting used to where I am in space. I had my other one was figured out. No, I'm just learning again a little bit. These like to stick together. Here's a clamshell there. Okay, and so this time, you remember we went through the Pac-Man side before? We want to do the opposite this time because we're ending it. So and going through that side. I'm going to go ahead and pull that down. And at this point, if you wanted to, you could trim off your needle. I'm going to leave mine because I like that it's holding my strands together just in case I fumble. But you could cut it off now if you wanted to. You'll need some tweezers though. It's easier to do with tweezers. If you don't have tweezers, you may want to cut off your needle and try tying a series of double knots. But I think the overhand knot is, at least for me, it's easier. But I think it could be done either way. But what I'm doing now, I know it's hard to see with this clear thread, but I've got it laying across my fingers. I'm going to roll it around, cross over here, hold that point where I crossed over, and then bring the tail through that loop. And now this is where the tweezers are super helpful. So if you put your tweezers through the loop and pinch the main strand, and try to get inside the clamshell when you do that. So I'm pinching the main strand inside of the clamshell. And I'm just going to pull this end here, the long end. And be careful not to, go behind the clamshell. See, that's behind it. Keep it above and in front of that loop. And pull tight. And it should sink that knot right inside the clamshell for you. And then when you pull the tweezers out, you can separate that. And if you want to repeat it one more time, it can't hurt, right? There's lots of room in the clamshell for a good knot. So why not? I think that's what I'm going to do here. You could also start your clamshell with an extra knot in there if you wanted to. It's a little trickier to do it starting, but possible. See, I'm pulling each strand by itself. And pull it apart. Okay, and then same thing as before. I think my glue is dry enough on this side. I can go ahead and trim it. I'm going to trim this one really quick and then glue it. So try not to cut your knot and try not to cut too close to your knot, but your tail should sit inside of your clamshell if at all possible. And so there's my glue. I'm being a little generous with it this time. This glue is going crazy. There we go. Okay. Over here, just trimming that. Again, leaving some tail, but making sure that it's lower than my clamshell side. And I'm going to get some pliers. Actually, I want my chain nose pliers. Let me grab those. And we will need some round nose as well. So let me grab those as well. Lots of tools in this one. And the way I like to close these is, there's two tricks. Now, one is sometimes they're soft enough to just do with your fingers. These aren't. Some of them are. Just depends on which ones you're working with. And of course, you can use your chain nose pliers. But another trick is to use your crimp tool. Play with it. The only problem with the crimp tool is sometimes the clamshell is wider than the opening on the crimp tool. But it's just easier to get a good handle on it. I'm going with chain nose pliers at the moment. And just straightening it out. And so there's one side closed. I'm going to repeat that on this side. So super fast, easy jewelry here. It's going to move around and wiggle on you. If you hold the loop, it's less likely to do that. There we go. That one's actually perfect. I don't need to mess with it. All right, so there's my little bracelet. And to close the top of this loop here, what you want to do is get some, those aren't the round nose. Here we go. Here's the round nose pliers. And what I like to do is move it to a pretty wide point. So, so that it's hugging the tool, and start to fold it forward. And as you do that, move out. And you'll get a perfect circle that way. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. So I'm at a wider point here. Start rolling it down and moving down. And you'll feel it kind of connect to the other side. These are nice, strong clamshells. So they're gonna hold their shape really nicely. And then from there, it's just clasp of your choice. Jump rings. And I like to use some square nose pliers with my jump rings. Find the seam there. And then these are bent nose. And any clasp will work. I'm gonna go with one of these. And then just laterally close that jump ring. Listen for that click. And you know you've got it. And then something I was going to show you guys, it's kind of an interesting little trend that I'm seeing out there in the jewelry realm, is mixing up the size of your jump rings when you make some chain for, you know, just to look pretty or just an adjustable look. So I used one of the smaller, the Findings pack has 3 sizes of jump rings. This is the smallest one. Got that click? And I'm going to switch up to the medium sized one. Put that one on next. And you could keep going and make a long chain like this, and it would just give it some visual interest. There's that one. One more. So that's just really pretty. Sometimes it's, you know, it's just little simple things like that that give your jewelry that extra something. And there's a little bracelet. You could throw a charm on that, and it's just completely unique, and fill a whole bar. And I feel like those would be very popular at like one of the summer fairs or craft shows, holiday bazaars. So that's just a super nice, affordable way to make lots of really beautiful jewelry with whatever beads you've got and your seed beads. And so I'm going to switch over to, where did I put the one I had done? Here it is. Okay. So here's the long necklace that is in the handout. This took me a while to string, but you know, it's just fun. And I still have my needle on the end. I just kind of put a stopper on there. And it is ready for the clamshell. So I'm going to grab one more of those. And I can show one more time how to end this. So again, I'm coming back through the other side. So the not Pac-Man side. Bring that down. And I have a little less play here with to make a knot. So I'm going to have to use my needle as part of my knot making here. There we go. And the tweezers right here. So again, I'm going through that loop and catching the main strand inside the clamshell. And I'm going to pull it tight. And if you've got a pretty good sized knot in there and you're happy with it, you can maybe get away with not doing a second one. I'm thinking that looks good, so I'm going to skip doing my second one there. Unless you guys want to see that knot one more time.
No, Danielle, I think you've convinced them clamshells are the way to go. I did have one Supplemax question is, do you need to pre-stretch it?
No, actually, it doesn't stretch at all. I should have mentioned that earlier. That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. Literally no stretch, and it's not going to stretch ever, which is great for the durability and the lasting, of your jewelry. The other thing is it's waterproof because it's just it's something that I just had never thought about before. But what a unique way to string stuff. I was interested in also. I haven't tried this yet, so I can't recommend it. But what if I went down a size and tried to use this in some of the larger bead weaving projects? It might have the added benefit of not being able to see the thread. And I've noticed a lot of the patterns that we see in some of the other designers have used something similar to this or something like a nylon version. I don't know. I'm off on a tangent there, but it's just a thought I had. Would that work? Would it be cool? So something else to try. And I've got such a list of things that I dream about trying. But yeah, no, it's a great little thread. I'm just trimming it here. And also save these needles. You can reuse them and use them and use them. So don't just toss them. And I learned also you can save the ones, if you use those silk ones where the needles come pre-strung, you can cut those off when you run out of silk. And you can save those too. And they are reusable as a collapsible eye needle, just like these. Sometimes they can be a little bit, smooshed, but you can just get in there with some tweezers. No problem. So I'm just trimming this end over here. This is the one I had from earlier. I already glued that side, so I don't need to glue that. Okay, same thing again. I'm just going to really close. I'm going to go a lot faster this time. I'm just going to close it. But there you go. Just so pretty. Just really easy to do. You guys saw last week how easy those focals were to make. And you can always use a pre-made focal if you have one handy. Just, I think in the handout, I forgot to show earlier, but in the handout, there's all of these. You could just throw one of those on it. And it would just be an instant, beautiful pendant that would be very eye-catching and just super pretty. So what I'm looking for now, well, first I want to find my round nose pliers. I'm just going to quickly form these into a circle. There's one side. These are really strong. I like that. So they're not going to come open on you. Okay. And now I need my findings pack again. And I want 2 jump rings. I think I'm going with the medium size. Okay. And now I'm going to need that finding again. And these come in, there's a couple options. If you don't want to use these, they have a couple other versions that you could try. I saw these when I was looking around at the findings wall. So if these aren't jumping out at you, you can also use some of these, or if you already have some of these in your stash. Also, any connector bar will work. You could even make a connector bar, or you could even just use a jump ring. I just liked these because the hammered look went with my theme here, especially with like these hematite ovals. Oops, I'm sorry. I just thought these went together really nicely. So that's kind of why I went with those. And they were very pretty in the sample design from the handout next to all the shell. If you look at them here with all that beautiful shell next to it, this is very eye-catching and a really pretty piece. So you get a lot of them too. There's a pretty good pack there. So you'll get a lot of jewelry out of that. I'm just going to quickly open these jump rings. Again, that's that lateral motion. And so this is my long one, and I'm putting it on the outside. And so when you first get started, you won't it really won't matter which side you start with, but it's just the consistency once we add the next layer. So there's side 1, of this necklace. I'm going to raise up a little bit because I feel like I'm going off camera a lot, and see if that helps. Okay.
That's great, Danielle.
Yeah, because I keep sliding away. It was good to see the tiny parts, but whoop. I'm using one of those like kind of like tripod things. There we go. That'll work. I'll get a little tube under there. Okay. Got it. Okay. So this part is, I feel like this part's intuitive, but I'm just going to cover it, you know, just in case. A little extra things. I have taken one of these apart before because I didn't put the right strand in the right spot. So I'm just going to go really quickly through that. Here's my other side. And so I would want to put it over here on that spot. All right. So there's the long strand. This is about 21 inches in length. I was going with 21, 18, and then there's the option here of an inner one. You could do a choker, like a 15 inch length if you wanted to. I think the very first version I ever did of this had a choker in there, and I made it with just size 11 seed beads in the same silver color that we've been using. And it's just size 11 all the way down. And then I just put a little center part of small 4mm beads, just random stuff that I had. So that's somewhere you can take this. Here's the other one that we made. It's about 18 inches long or so. At least that was my goal. And then you can get some jump rings. It really doesn't matter which size you choose as long as you're using the same size on each strand. You know, so same size for this one, same size for this one. Jump ring on that. And then I'm going to use the center here. If you're just making two, you could also come over here if you're just going to have it be two and you want it to hang. Actually, I think I might do that since I don't have a choker for this one yet. I'm going to put it on the outside. So just kind of turning it into a two hang. But definitely play with that and see, you know, see what stuff you can create. There's that other one. All right, so that part's done. And I made this one a little too long, so it's, I think what I might do later after class is I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another one of these because I have a bunch of these left from our last class. So we covered it a few times. I'm going to make one that's the right length here. This should be a little bit shorter. And then all you got to do to finish it, super easy, is just put some jump rings and a clasp here. And, I'll do that really quick. I'm going to do the same thing I did before with my little mix. And this time I'm going to use a lobster claw and one of those. Actually, we'll do that for symmetry. Now I want to do one of those videos where you just snap and it's just there. That would be great. Does anyone have any questions about the design or the process that we've used here? Or ideas to share? You know, this was
Everyone feels that you've covered it well. And Millie is actually putting part 1 PDF in the sidebar in case people missed last week's class, but they could definitely go back and see it and get the links and everything on the YouTube page. People were curious about how do you calculate the length of the necklace when you have a long focal?
Yeah, I think in the case of this one that I made earlier, I just didn't measure it properly when I was working on it. But typically what you'd want to do is Or actually, what I did is I made these too long. But yeah, I should have measured with my tape measure 8 inches plus 2 inches either side so I could get my crimps formed. That would have given me the right length. I got these the same, but then when I strung this one, I made it exactly 21, and this one's probably closer to like 20. But yeah, just cutting that link thread and of course measuring it as you go, measuring it, especially when you're doing the monofilament version and you're stringing it. The only challenge that I had was once I decided where my center was, I didn't get to change my mind unless I undid a whole side because of the way I centered it. I centered it with 2 size 6 beads. So if you aren't sure, maybe just don't. I guess it's kind of hard to do if you're doing this pattern. You would need to have either no 6s and just 8s, but even then you'd want an even number on either side. So I kind of stuck myself in a little quandary there with my pattern. If you didn't have a pattern at all, if you just went with all 8s or all 6s, then, or if you did a pattern where it was just 6 8 6 8 6 8 all the way, you wouldn't have to worry. You could just measure the total length at the end and then finish it. But I probably should have used one of those like lay tools, you know, one of those, they make them for necklaces where you lay the tool out and the necklace across it and layer each layer. That would have been another really great way to do it. And I think Beadalon did a class on that. So I should probably go watch it. Just saying. But yeah, there's just so many different ways. I actually really like this. I feel like it's pretty. And a little matching bracelet.
Danielle, what I like about this, and someone's asking about how do you know the length? A lot of the standard necklace lengths don't work for a lot of people in terms of sizing or, you know, choice of where they want the pendant to hang. So
Yeah.
I think you'll find that you just need to play with this a little bit and maybe not close it off. So you have the option of putting on an inch or taking off an inch. But the best thing about mixed media style necklaces like this is it's for you. You can make
Mhm.
it really work to your shape, and then also make some really standard size shaping for other people.
Yeah, exactly. And I found that I often just hold it up when I'm working. Using tools is a newer process for me because for a long time I would just hold it up and see what I liked. It wasn't until I started designing not for myself that the tools became something I paid attention to. Because before that, it was, hey, do I like it? I'd try it on and see if I liked it. And so that's the great thing about making our own jewelry is we can do that.
Danielle, if you were doing a multi-layer bracelet, would you use a component at the end, or would you join all the layers with one jump ring?
Oh, it'd be beautiful with the component. I think that's still style, but I would love to do one with a component on it. It would be statement on the wrist, right? But still very cool. And it also would add length, so you wouldn't have to string as much.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that too.
Many
But
options.
I've seen beautiful jewelry both ways.
Well, Danielle, you're awesome for time. You're right at the end.
Oh, yeah.
So you have just a few minutes to say hello to everybody and show them next week's class.
Yeah, so next week we're going to be doing, last week when I introduced the projects, I believe I mixed up the order. Next week's class is actually this one.
That's right.
It's the crystal herringbone stitch. So we get to stitch next week. I'm feeling like I want to stitch now. So this uses 4mm crystal rondelles. And the ones that you see in that bracelet are the ones that come on these strands. If you guys have seen these in the stores, but the 4mm strand is missing here because I pulled it off to use. And I needed 3 of these for the bracelet that you're seeing here. Buy 3 or 4 and then save these crystals and we'll do some more projects that use them up. Alternatively, they do have some smaller crystals at the strung wall. So if you head over to the strung wall and look, any 4mm will do. It doesn't have to be a crystal. You can use a pearl or really anything. And you could also just use a size 6 seed bead because the equivalent for this and that are about the same. This design will still work with a size 6 seed bead. So if you want to just skip the rondelles entirely, you can go for it. I was just trying to do something glamorous and something with, you know, just a little bit of sparkle. So that's what that was about. And then this one that's over here is the bracelet class. And I have it hung as a necklace right now. Let me go ahead and take it off of there. The reason that I thought about this class is because I do struggle with measuring jewelry, especially when it's not for me. And so there's a tool that helped me a lot with that. And it was this one. Now I know this tool is not, it's not everything, but it's enough that it can get you started. And I can show you how I use it and how it works for example, photography. When you're putting your jewelry online, if you sell your jewelry, I will take photographs on this board to show how it looks when it's in a wrapped position, especially if you're going to do something multi-wrap. So this one is a design that goes 3 times around the wrist. And I wanted those little leaves to sit on the front of my wrist. And so I use this tool to help me achieve that. And then also we'll play with some suede and buttons, a new closure idea that I wanted to share. And so, yeah, that's the next 2 classes. And then next week, maybe we can introduce the June lineup too. So yeah, that's all I've got for today. And I wanted to thank you guys again for being here on your Friday night with us, and really looking forward to seeing you next week. And I want to wish you a happy weekend. Bye, guys.